Welcome everybody. Thanks for being with us this morning. It's Friday, and we're having a lot of success and a lot of action in the Skype room every morning. And I'm just thrilled about the way everybody is embracing Pivot Scalper 3 and the helpers really starting to take off. And the cool thing about it is you just have to really give yourself a little bit of time to learn how the helper works, how PS3 works, how to use it best. So don't rush it, take your time, and it's gonna come together for you. But what I'm gonna do is this morning, very quickly, I'm just gonna go through 3 or 4 trades, charts. These are all charts that I picked up in the chat room, in the Skype chat. Anybody who's not in the chat, you need to be in the chat, and I will post the I'll post that link in the chat here in just a minute so you guys can join. But it's really, really cool place to be. It's a good conversation in the morning, traders interacting, sharing screenshots, videos, strategies, and so forth. Also, by the way, our unofficial moderator is Stephen Robichaud. Stephen was one of our beta testers, so he knows this inside and out. He's been through in the trenches with us on it as we developed it. Along with the other beta testers who were really instrumental in helping us flush out all the kinks and quirks and bugs before we released it to you guys. So let's go right into, let me see if that's all the announcements that I wanted to make. I think so. We're going to be doing a webinar every single Friday, okay, until you guys get bored. And Dan will have announcements. Dan will bring everybody up to date on the latest programming. He's going to do a little bit on PS3 and the helper as well today. And one of the things that I want to do in the future, like really near future, is I want to see, I'm going to do a little practicing, excuse me, and see if trading, live trading, the Pivot Scalper is something that we're able to do at 10 o'clock on a Friday. Okay, I want to just check market volume and just see if, during this period of time, we're going to be getting enough signals so that we can actually do that, and it's fun and instructive. I don't want to just come on like we've done in the past. We come on, we have the best intentions, but for whatever reason, the technology doesn't work for us. I want to avoid that at all costs. One of the things, though, that I do want to offer right now, I would like to have some videos from members, okay? I always felt that any videos, any screenshots, any examples that come from you guys are 1,000 times more valuable than anything that me and Dan can show you or produce. So I want to invite everybody to record a video that you narrate. And here's how you can do it. You can just turn the video on and let it play. But don't try to catch a trade and then turn the video on. Just let it play, and then you can edit it down, or you can send me the whole freaking video and I'll have Jazz do it. But what I'd like, and I want to be very specific, a video that shows a really great example of a Pivot Scalper 3 trade. I'll take 5 of those. I'd like to have 5 examples of someone using the helper, okay, in real time, in real market. And it's also important using real money, okay? So here's my offer. If for any video that I get for Pivot Scalper, you will get a free month, okay? And just 1 video per person. Free month, your next month is on me. Same with the helper. Okay, and I haven't consulted Dan on this, but I'm sure Dan would think it would be very valuable to have some real people out there using the helper and showing their examples. So
yep, I'm down with that.
You're down with that? Okay, thanks, Dan. I thought you might be. So that's a big savings for you guys if you're interested, if you'd like to do that. We would sure love to have your examples. So let's get right into this. I just want to go through some quick charts that we got. This is one from Stephen from just the other day. Let's see if there's the date on here. Yeah, the 16th. Okay, and so let me just see if I can get my, I want to get, there we go, a spotlight so you guys can see where my cursor is. Okay, so here we have, let's say you come into the market. Looks like after, no, this is morning. So this is morning. Okay, so here we have price action moving. We have, let's just use this first signal as our first example. Okay, so you have price action moving up into resistance, and then you get an arrow. This is a legit trade that you could take. I wouldn't take it because I don't have any perspective yet on the market. Let's say I just came in here, it's 5 a.m. I don't have any perspective yet. I don't really know what the market is doing, so I wouldn't take that. Then we see the price action move down through this support, and then we get our first arrow. The interesting thing about this first arrow is it also could be, another wave moving up, which obviously it is, but it's not really off a level. It's not a pivot. It's just an arrow that appeared in the middle of price action. It's not something that we can take with confidence. So we're just going to let that one go by. Now we have a pivot right here. All right. We have a pivot going short, and we wouldn't take that one because it's not operating, or it's not interacting with a level. Okay, now it gets interesting. So our price action moves down, hits this support, and that would ordinarily be a perfectly legitimate trade, except for one thing. This arrow is below the previous green arrow. And so what that tells us is the momentum is still moving down, all right? So that's another one we would avoid. And sure enough, it pops up for one candlestick and then continues on down. So now we've penetrated support, and we've got our third arrow in this series. And why wouldn't we take this one? Because it is even farther below the previous two arrows, all right? So not a really, really great example of what we want to trade off of, because we've got momentum moving against us. Now we come up to arrow number 4, and so we've moved up. We've pivoted. This is an absolutely perfect example of not only a Pivot Scalper 3 trade, but also a second wave. And they all coincided. This is such high probability your grandma could take this trade and make money with it. So let's see what happens here. So we move up and we pivot, come down, and we're going into support again, heavy support. We've got R2 and PR3. That was the resistance from the previous day and resistance from today. But in this example, it's working as support. Okay, it's a floor. So now we come down to the tick. We hit the previous resistance 3, and we get an arrow. All right, you can take this trade on that doji, or you can wait until the next candle for confirmation. And you're definitely taking this one up. Aggressively move your stop up and have yourself a really great trade. That's a beautiful example of why you would not take the first red arrow, the next 3 green arrows, and you would take the fourth green arrow. Okay, now let's look at this one. So again, let's go from over here. This is CL. Let's see what we've got here. So here we've got some interaction with this pivot point here. You have to also, this is really important when you're looking at charts like this is why I don't like to use historical data. I prefer to use live market action, because it's very hard for us to kind of imagine that what we're looking at is happening on the hard right edge of the chart. Okay, because we've got all these other things. And one of the things that I criticize a lot about other traders and other trading products and trade rooms is that this is their trade room. Okay, this is what they do in their trade room. They scroll back and they show examples of what would have been a perfect trade. I don't like to be that guy, all right? But for the purposes of showing you we're just getting started with Pivot Scalper 3, and I just do want to show some examples of what a perfect trade looks like and why you would or would not take a trade. So starting here, your second arrow is not taking place is not a pivot, all right? It still would be a decent trade probably because you're on a pivot point, you're on a floor trader number, but I wouldn't take, it's also below the previous arrow. So you could argue that this would be a trade that you could take. I wouldn't take it because I only take trades on pivot points and on a doji, all right? Or as we used to call them, double tails, all right? So let's go through this. So we have this second arrow, it pulls down, and then we get our first green arrow. This green arrow is below the previous one. I wouldn't be interested in it, although it is off a pivot, it is a doji, and it did move up, and it would have given us a few ticks, all right? Wouldn't have traded it. Now, the next trade that I would consider, I would absolutely take, would be the next green arrow. Look at this, how beautiful it is. It moves up, comes back down, and that makes this a bottom, and that makes this a second wave for that small portion of the chart, those small historical view of the chart. This would be a bottom. This would be your second wave, and you're right on S1. You've got a green arrow that's above the previous arrow. You move up, you've got a beautiful trade. Now, again, here you have a red arrow. You've got a price reversal. You might consider this over here. You might consider this a double top. You might be close enough here to consider that interacting with R1. But I would not take this trade with confidence simply because the market had been moving up and, you know, all the way from over here. And it just, even though it turned out to be an excellent trade, it's not one that I would take. We only want to take high probability trades. We only want to take trades, 1 or 2 or maybe 3 trades in a day, load up our account, and then get the heck out of here. All right. So if you're going to trade that way, you're going to have a lot more winners. You're going to leave the day with green on your chart. You're going to make money every day. But if you take a trade like this, your probabilities, well, there's a probability of victory here, but it's not high. Well, and it's certainly not high compared to the next one. So let's look at that. So you bounce off this R1, you've got yourself an arrow. You start moving down, you hit S2, you bounce up, you come back, and you get a pivot right here on this resistance. That is also another second wave trade, and it's a beautiful trade. You could have actually conceivably stayed in this trade all the way down to the bottom. But let's just pretend like we don't see any of this here, any of this run. We get into this trade, and let's say we get into it a little bit late on the next candle. All right. Then we get another confirmation arrow, another confirmation arrow, another confirmation arrow. And then we come down to S2. And when you are approaching S2, this is the next logical area of support that you've got to consider. You have to consider that this could be a reversal. All right. You're going to probably get some kind of reaction to S2. And sure enough, you get a green candle here just below it. You pop up just a tad, but probably not enough to take out your stop. All right. But that is, you have to look at that as a potential area of where you're going to get a reversal, or you're going to, you know, get some kind of action. And that is where some people may just decide, okay, so if I get out now, I can grab all of that move. Or I have to risk it hitting my stop wherever your stop might have been, and you'll lose, you know, whatever, 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks, depending on where you put your stop. All right. So that's a place where you might have just clicked out of the trade, taken your money, and been happy. If you had stayed in the trade, bingo, it would have been huge. However, on previous S1, that would be your next area of logical support. You could have expected something to happen there. Nothing happened. Then beyond that, your next logical area of support where something might happen, where you might be considering getting out of the trade, would be at the S3. Nothing happened there. It just blasted right through. It was a major sell-off. So this right here, an absolutely beautiful, beautiful trade. You know what? I don't like this chart, so I'm just going to go straight to this one. And let me see if I can get rid of that. There we go. Okay, so I got rid of my my pointer also. This is another Steven chart that he put in there just this morning. I really like this one, and let's look at why. So if we can't take this arrow, we can't take this pivot, so we're just watching. Then we start interacting with our support and resistance with our floor trader numbers here, and we get our first opportunity, I suppose you could call it, where we're interacting. But our cardinal rule here is our previous arrow is below, our green arrow is below the previous one. We don't want to take that trade, so we just want to let it play out. All right. And oh my goodness, look what happens. If I'd only caught that one, well, it would have been a good trade. But we have to follow the rules. If you don't follow the rules, here's the thing about trading, let it be boring, follow the rules, have a checklist every day. Before I started the webinar this morning, I was sitting right over here on my chair. That's where I do my meditation every day. And I get into the mind space that I need to be in to trade. Okay, I do it every single morning before I trade. I did it before I did this webinar, so that I can really get my mind focused on what I'm doing. And that's a really great way to do it. And I have my checklist that I look over. I don't read every word, but I boom, boom, boom. I go through it just to remind myself, because we so often forget. Just remind yourself, make a checklist of all the things that you are going to follow. In this particular case, you could say, and I speak from experience, but it would have been a great trade. Yeah, but maybe it wouldn't have been. And it is against the rules. So just deal with it. Don't play if it's against the rules. So let's look at another example of that. So we move up, we interacted with the previous S1, and we move down. All right, then we come back up, and we've got what appears to be an absolutely beautiful trade, except for one thing. What is that one thing? The darn short arrow is higher than the previous short arrow. So we have to ignore it if we're disciplined traders. Have to ignore it. Price moves down, futz around in this little area of no man's land where we don't take trades. You could argue, once you get to be a seasoned trader, you could argue that you had a double bottom here and that this would have been a beautiful trade. And I wouldn't disagree with you. It would be. But that's not how we're trading, right? And that's what we have to keep in mind. We're trading Pivot Scalper 3 and we're trading Helper, all right? And that's all we're doing. And if you will just stick with that, you will find success. If you bounce around, if you try to rearrange the rules, you know what? I've just seen so much failure among traders that I don't recommend it. But finally, we do come up and we are interacting here with previous S1 again, as we did here. We are below the previous red arrow, and we've got some significant resistance here. This is, on your confirmation bar, a very, very high probability trade. In fact, this is the only trade you need today. You made, let's say you got in, right around here, 62 maybe. You got out at, as you're approaching this pivot at 40. You've got 18 to 20 ticks in there. And if you are trading in the combine or you're trading 3 to 5 contracts, that is a beautiful, beautiful day in the market, a beautiful trade. So just remember those rules. If I said anything that wasn't accurate, Dan is fixing to come in here and straighten me out. But that's how I trade with Pivot Scalper. I just know that following the rules is the best way for me to win. That's what I encourage you all to do. So Dan, that's it for me, brother, and it's on you.
Thanks, Scott. So if you could leave this chart up, Scott.
Okay.
Just wanted to point out a few things. This particular chart is actually using one of the settings that I haven't been advertising because it goes against some of the rules that Scott was talking about. You notice that some of these arrows on here do not appear on floor trader levels. Now there is a setting in there which will allow you to essentially take any pivot that qualifies along with the oscillator rules. So this one is not using floor trader numbers as much as it's using the oscillation parameters to get an overall feel for overbought and oversold. And as you can see here, the most beautiful trade out here, that one arrow, the red arrow that's lower than the rest coming off of the R1, PS1 area is an example of that. Now, if it didn't have that setting on there, you wouldn't have gotten that arrow and you would have missed that trade.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an example. Again, it's a little bit more advanced, but we can all see here is that, you know, price action does seem to behave with those areas, but it's not precise. And I think some of these things that as we go more and more into the future, as we go further and further away from the traditional pits and things like that, that people used for years and years, and as it truly becomes more of a 24-hour cycle on this stuff, there may need to be some adjustments in the ways that we look at levels. But as you can see for right now, it didn't hit it precisely, but definitely it got up into that region and went, maybe not, and then came back around. So Scott, that's just my 2 cents on that one. I just want to let
Yeah,
folks.
thank you for that. I'm going to stop sharing now. Are you going to share your screen?
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen. So
Okay, so I'll stop sharing.
Bring things around here. I'm trying to answer a couple of questions here also.
All right.
Screen share. All right. So desktop 2. Let's go desktop 1. All right, I think that's everything there. So everybody should see the 2 charts here. So couple of things that have been a constant theme that I've been seeing. Actually, I shouldn't say I've been seeing. Stephen's really doing the legwork here on this, is that, and reporting back to me as I work on other things. One of the biggest questions that's been going on in the chat room a lot is, what about the settings, the parameters? You know, when it comes out of the box, you got one set of parameters, but you're posting things on the website and things are jumping around a little bit. So the reason for this is that you can, you know, as things change on a week-to-week basis, day-to-day basis, month-to-month, they're not always huge changes, but there are subtle changes. And because this is a computer generating these signals, there are ways of tuning it to get the most signals possible. However, precisely tuning it to that degree, often what happens is it works really well for that section of time, and then it doesn't work very well for what happens in the next few days. So what with the feedback that we've been getting, and I've posted videos on this yesterday, what I'm gravitating towards now is I'm going to create a set of general settings that you can use on the instruments. This will include a brick size that's good for the kind of scalp trading we're talking about. Typically, it's going to be small, but not super small. I know I did one of these. I think it was last week. The computer said you should have a brick size of 2, and that actually is way too small. It's nearly impossible to do discretionary trading on that. The computer naturally can pick it up, but as human beings, we're likely to be several ticks behind by the time we see and react to the signal. So what I'll be doing is working with brick sizes that are pretty good for discretionary trading and also good for the helper. And these are settings that should last you very well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to back off until there is either some major sea change due to news in particular markets, or I'm going to look at them probably once or twice a quarter just to be certain that those settings are still reasonably on track. So that will give you all a set of settings with the pivot scalper. Let me bring that up here just so you can see it. So really what we're talking about here is these guys right in here, is these period settings. So for each instrument, I will give you the instrument, the brick size, and then settings that are generally going to work pretty good for you most of the time. And then from there, you can just go based on your own experience. Some of the things that I detailed in the video that was posted were some adjustments. You notice here a 0 here and a 0 here. These are ways of actually pulling out some of the overbought and oversold features so that you get more arrows on the chart, But again, you have to be wary of that also, because it'll also throw out more false signals for you. So, but I detail in here what all of these settings are actually doing and how to take advantage of that stuff, or the reason that you might want to just stick with the basic stuff as you're learning this and getting the hang of it. So, not sure if you guys are hearing that. This is actually running live right now. So it looks like we had actually I don't have my chart trader up, so I don't know what it did. But so the plan here is to come up with generalized settings that you can use for the various instruments. I'll go with the most common instruments. If you're trading some more of the less common ones, I can eventually get you a group of settings for that. I can sort of build a library out there on the website. This is where we're at with it right now. I'm also working on a version of the helper that will enable you to give you a better ability to actually create some of these numbers yourself. The current helper does not work with the strategy analyzer. This is by intention. There's two ways of going about it, and what I really want to make the emphasis on the initial offering here was to give a tool that's going to work for folks and not lead them down a path of trying to always get the computer to give you the best numbers. So I've been doing this for a very long time, and what I found is that when the computer gives you the very best numbers, it's a very good fit to the past stuff, but it winds up not working very well for what comes after that. And there's also variations about
Dan, you went silent, bro.
what your real fills are in the real market. Whoop. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I just had a little blip here that said something about my internet connection was unstable. So I'm going to apologize for that. I'm going to go talk to my cable company today. I've had a few issues with the internet of late. So I know they've been tinkering with it. Their first batches of tinkers made things better, but it seems like in the last couple of days it got a little worse. A generalized group of settings for the most common instruments. If you're not seeing your favorite instrument up there, send us a note to support, and I will eventually get something up there for you that you can use. Now, there'll be two more versions of the helper coming out. There's going to be helper I'm calling Helper Journeyman, which will give you some ability to do.
We lost you again, bro. We do have our challenges, don't we? Okay, so while he's coming back to us, I posted in the chat here, I posted a link for Screencast-O-Matic. I used to use this expensive version of, what was it called? Camtasia. And, you know, it was like $350, $400. This is so much better than Camtasia, and it's free. It's a free tool, and it works on Macs as well as PCs. So Screencast-O-Matic. Hey, man, you were gone again.
Here we go.
You're back?
I'm back.
Okay.
All right, let me see if I get the screen share back. All right, I think I got a good idea where I was at. So sorry if I'm repeating myself. So I will be getting a generalized set of the most common instrument numbers for the most common instruments, and these numbers are not going to vary wildly from week to week. As I said, I'll check them probably once or twice a quarter, at least once, maybe twice. If there is any variance, I'm sure it'll be pretty small, but these will be a set of numbers.
He's gone again, so I'm going to talk. For those of you who are beginners, who are just getting started,
you can use fairly reliably.
Dan,
I'm gone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You fade in and out. Whenever you go away, I start talking. Just keep everybody entertained.
Okay, then I'll use that as my cue to I can pick up where or I heard you start talking.
Okay.
So generalized numbers for the instruments you trade. If we don't have your favorite instrument there, send a note to support, and I will get a set of those general numbers published for you in a couple of days. Going forward, there is going to be 2 more versions of the helper. At least one of those will come out this year. Hopefully, what we're calling the Pro version will make it this year also. But I'm doing them in levels of complication and ability. So the next one that's going to come out will give you some ability to create these numbers on your own. That will be a version that runs through it'll run through the strategy analyzer. And actually, I let it out there. Replay also is a really good way to practice with this. But back to with the strategy analyzer, so you can generate some of your own numbers. It'll also have a couple of additional features that enable you to do a little better work with letting your helper run a little bit and not be too concerned about direction changes in the market where you need to jump back and work with things. So there'll be some good features in there for that. Once we've got it pretty much close to the end of the beta test and the features that we're going for that version locked in, I'll give you some more details on that. And I think that's the main stuff I wanted to cover. To let you guys know where things are at with that. I had a bunch of questions in the Q&A thing up a second ago. I lost it with the connection.
Go check. Oh, you lost them. I wanted to talk to the people who are brand new, people who have never traded before, people who are just real novices. A lot of this technical conversation is kind of, it'll get in your way. It always does get in my way. And because I just don't respond really well to all that stuff. There are some traders that really want every little detail, every little, and I'm not one of those traders. So what I do is I use the default settings on everything. That's what I do, because inevitably or invariably your NinjaTrader charts are going to get wiped out. And then I have to either, call Dan or Jazz myself. And I just don't like doing that. I like to just be able to set it up myself. And I'm able to do that on my own, just using the default settings. For me, the default settings work. So anybody who's brand new, who doesn't want to dig into all this nonsense and who really feels maybe a little bit overwhelmed, just use the default settings and you'll be able to make all the money that you need using Pivot Scalper and Helper. I'm famous for saying, that trading can give you everything you need to live any way and anywhere that you want. And it's true. In fact, I'm going to be in Vietnam 10 days from now, and I'm going to demonstrate. I'm going to shoot a video of me trading at a little sidewalk cafe with maybe 3 or 4 tables like I did last time I was there. And they have super fast internet in a communist country, 1,000 times faster than ours. And it's all free everywhere you go. I traded there in 2015. We traded in Thailand. Dan was with us in Thailand last November. By the way, everybody who is part of my group is invited to these exotic excursions that we do every November. So I'll be sending out an announcement about that. Keep that in mind. But we just have a lot of fun together. A lot of, people just like us, traders, and we have a lot of fun. And we see the sites. We talk about trading and other life things. But you really, really can, if you do this properly, you really can have an amazing lifestyle. And, you don't have to go out in traffic and fight traffic to get to your cubicle. Your cubicle can be right there in your living room, your office, your bedroom, or your cave, wherever that might be. But what I know for a fact is that if you don't slow down, if you try to do this too quickly, if you don't give it a respectable amount of time to actually learn, then you won't succeed. That's a fact of life. Okay, so slow down. Give yourself. We spent 12 years in school. We spent 4 years in 4 or 8 or 12 years in college to learn how to sit in a cubicle and make 50 or 100,000 a year. It's idiotic. And what really drives me crazy is people won't give, learning how to trade, they won't give it a month or 2 months to learn how to actually do it and read the markets. And I'm telling you, you can make a lot more than six figures doing this if you will just give it a rest, learn how these floor trader numbers work, learn how the arrows work, learn how to deploy the helper, and then get into the market during the highest period of volatility, or when it's convenient for you, get in, get your money, get out, and then go live your life. Don't make trading your life, okay? That's another bit of wisdom. Don't make trading your life. Don't saddle yourself to your computer for 10 hours a day doing this, because it's just you might as well, be digging ditches for all I know. So we've got some questions coming in. So Dan, if you want to take one, I'll read through these and see if there are any for me.
Okay, I'm not seeing questions in the Q&A deal. I'm just working in the chat right now.
Okay. Where are the rules you speak of? Oh, here's another thing I wanted to say. So, we get a lot of questions about whether or not I should change to NinjaTrader 8. I can't advise you on that. All I can tell you is this. I know 7 is a very stable platform. I know they are going to support NinjaTrader 7 for at least another 5 years. So why would I want to go through the hassle of learning, NinjaTrader 8? That's where I'm coming from, but that's really up to you. So, Dan, so right now we've got Pivot Scalper 3.0 on NinjaTrader 7. It's not on 8. Are we going to put it on 8?
Sure. So I mentioned in the chat, it's really up for you and I. We have a couple of things in the works, so it's up to you and I to agree on the priorities.
Okay. Yeah. So we are going to convert everything to 8. We're also working with a company called Tradeovate, which is a new platform. It's web-based. I'm really looking forward to that because I travel a lot and I like to just be able to trade on my little Mac, which is what I'm on right now. It's a little 2.5-pound MacBook Air, and I can trade beautifully with it, as opposed to carrying this 10-pound monster around with me. It might even be 12 pounds. So that's that. There you go. You just answered that. So Dan, I think that's about it. We were on for about 37 minutes. I think that's a really good amount of time. I don't want to bore anybody, and we'll meet you guys back here. Unless Dan has something else to say, we'll meet you back here next Friday, same time.
Sounds good. Okay, just a couple of questions in here. The thing refreshed on me. Show 2 charts.
Where are the rules?
Suggest.
Oh, the rules. They're right here on this video. I'll be sending it out and posting it on the
I guess on rules, if I know for some folks video is good, others just want to see a check punch list.
Yeah.
I thought I remember describing that when I was prepping the materials. If not, I'll get together with Scott and we'll come up with something that's a real 1, 2, 3, 4 sort of thing that says these are the rules for taking trades with the PS3.
Yeah,
and
let's do that, and then we'll put a PDF on the website.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good.
Let's see. If you're having trouble finding if you're a Pivot Scalper customer or a oil money customer, just go out to the website. On the left-hand navigation area, there will be a thing called Pivot Scalper, and everything you need should be there. Also, actually, Scott just gave me a couple of links if you want to sign up and download those things. Hold on just a second. I will post those links for you right into the...
While you're doing that, I want to clarify, there's a little bit of confusion because there's the oilmoney.com and there's pivotscalper.com. And they're both identical websites. They're clones of one another. What happened is I started 9 years ago with the oilmoney.com. And then a couple of years ago, I felt like that doesn't really speak to what we do. And it gives people the impression that we only trade oil. So then I started pivotscalper.com, and it has been, to say the very least, just confused me, Jazz, and everybody I work with and everybody out there. So what we're in the process of migrating everything into the oil money. And so we don't know when that's going to happen. But in the meantime, you don't need to worry about any of that. They're both identical sites. So when we refer to the oil money, everything that's on the oilmoney.com is on pivotscalper.com. We done?
Let's see. I'm going to answer just the next couple of things that are in the question box. Someone mentioned about a free trial expiring on 10/23. Is that actually there were two different groups of people that we started off with on the 10/23. It looks like that was a 2-week initial. Scott, there's someone asking about getting the full 21 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so here's what happened. Dan and I were just a little bit out of sync on that. And so my offer is always, 21-day trial for $1. The reason I do that is because, number one, 7 out of 10 people will not put their digits in, and it's not about the dollar. It's about, do you have enough confidence in me and my program that you're willing to give me $1 to try it for 21 days? Then it also makes it easy. So once the 21 days is done, you can either go into the back office, click on manage subscription, and then cancel on your own. Or if you just let it expire, you'll be charged the $47 or whatever it is once that's over. So what I decided to do was I didn't want to put any obstacle in the way. I wanted everybody to try Pivot Scalper 3 and Helper. And so we didn't put the dollar. So it's 21 days. You're going to have your full 21 days working with Pivot Scalper. There was an initial group, as Dan said, who got only 2 weeks with the Helper. All right, but the majority of everybody is on 21 days with Helper, 21 days with Pivot Scalper 3. But the first date, conversion date, was the 23rd. Okay, that's coming up in a few days. So, we did that promotion for a whole week from Monday to a Friday. And so, depending on where you came in, that'll determine. And you can go into your back office and click manage subscription, and all of your data, all of your information is there. You'll know, when you join. Now, here's the thing. So you're going to get an email from me inviting you to join, and there's going to be a link there. So nobody who joined for this promotion is going to be charged because I don't have your digits. I don't have your information. So you have to make a conscious decision when you get that video, that email from me. You have to make a conscious decision to actually join and put in your credit card number and pay the $47 if you want to continue. And that'll happen in a few days for you. If for any reason you don't get that and you just want the link, I think Dan just posted those links. Is that what that is? Yeah, there you go. Those are the links there. So go ahead and copy and paste those links. So in case you don't get my email, nothing expires, because at the 21st day, midnight, everything's going to expire. You'll go to log in the next day and you won't have your stuff. Okay. Any plans to allow changes to the current price markers on PS3? Do you see that question, Dan?
Which one?
Any plans to allow changes to the current price markers on PS3? I would like to change the color. I know that I can do this on DTPS.
Price markers on. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't. I can certainly add that into PS3. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things. I'm always trying to keep the amount of clutter to a minimum on those things. But if that's something that's winds up being a bad color for some folks, I can add that option back in.
Okay, we got a question about the ES, whether it's good or bad, or versus NQ. So any indexes in my opinion, they require a little bit more understanding of the market. One thing I love about the ES is that it's got a lot of volume, and so it doesn't, like, a lot of people get concerned about what happens if you have thousands of people taking the exact same trade. What happens? Well, if that happens in oil, there's not enough liquidity. in oil. There is in the ES to do that kind of a thing. So ES can be really tricky. I would recommend. I really love oil and gold. 6E I also like. They just, if you're going to trade to make, if you're going to scalp to make money and do it for kind of a short period of time in the morning, keep yourself as safe as possible. In my opinion, the CL is still the holy grail. That's where the money is. That's where the volatility is, in most cases. And that's where you can make your quick money. If you're interested in ES, just study up on it. I've traded it. I don't like it personally. It's temperamental, just like the NQ. And it's kind of moves like there's no rhyme or reason for why it moves the way it does sometimes. And I like predictability. I like, oil. When there's a news event, I've traded oil so long now. I really know how it's going to react to news, whether it's negative or positive, and I can, and I have an idea of how long a trend, if it's is going to last in the CL after a news event, that kind of thing. So those things I find to be a lot less predictable in the ES and the NQ. Can you post the link for the video copier once again? Okay, yeah, hang on a second. Video copier. No, this is the video.
I think this is the video I posted yesterday. It's in the chat room. I know there's a couple of links to it in there. Hold on a sec. There was a
video copier. What is that though?
I think it's just he's saying video copy of the probably either of this webinar or of the explanation that I talked about with the periods and oscillators.
Okay, yeah. Would you grab that? Oh, the recorder. Okay, so yes. Here goes. That's the. You cannot. Oh, I was trying to drop that in Dan's chat. Sorry. Hang on one second. I'm trying to drop this in here, and for some reason, my giving me trouble.
All right.
I just need to drop this into the chat real quick, and then I'm done.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Not finding that. Hold on. See if I can go find the YouTube link.
Okay, I cannot get into the chat, darn it. Are you not able to scroll up and grab that link? It's just right up there if you just scroll up.
Yeah, I'm getting it out of Skype right now.
Yeah, we're talking about two different oh, there we go. Okay, here we go. There it is.
Somebody get it in there? Okay.
Goodness.
Link to the video explaining.
There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Just getting used to Zoom. So there's the, okay, so now we got both. So there's the Screencast-O-Matic, and then there's the YouTube video for the oscillation settings. All right.
So one last question, and then we're headed out here. There was a question on the cost of the helper after the 21-day subscription. The basic helper that's available right now will be $25 a month after the 21-day trial. So that's it for us. Got any more questions? We're always popping in and out and trying to help you guys out on the PS3 Skype group. So on a day-to-day,
great place to be.
That's where to get in touch. And of course, Scott and I will continue to do these webinars every Friday.
Let me just drop that link in there as well. And there is the invitation to the Skype group. So that's going to do it for us. Thanks very much. Y'all have a great, great weekend. And don't forget your checklist and your morning meditation before you trade. See y'all next week.
Bye, guys.